Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the design experiences series with UiPath, where we are exploring the classic versus the modern design experiences. And today we are going to discuss about the advantages of the modern activities, or I would say that how do you use the modern activities in the real-time world. Okay, in case you are coming to the channel for the first time and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest videos. Talking of the agenda, this would be our agenda for today. We are going to start with a quick recap of the classic versus the modern design. Post that, we are going to see something which is called how can I use an feature, I would say, which is called convert to dynamic text. Then we are going to build small automation both in classic versus modern, and we are going to see how does the modern activities work, how it is different from the classic one, and what are the benefits we get if I use the modern activities. I personally like using the modern activities, and today in this video I would like to show you that why I am saying that. And at the end of this video, if you also feel the same, that yes, modern activities are more powerful and we should use it, just let me know in the comments. Having said that, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing first, UiPath has got two design experiences. The first is the classic and the second one is called the modern, right? In UiPath Studio, you can easily identify whether you are in the classic or in the modern by looking at the layout. So at the top, if you see this wizard and your activities are looking like this, that means you are on the classic design. And in your UiPath Studio, if you are seeing the app web recorders and your activities are looking like this, that means you are on the modern design experiences, right? As a developer in UiPath Studio, I can always use the modern activities and the classic activities interchangeably, right? And you always has an option that the new projects you want to create, whether you want to build it in the classic or you want to build in the modern. All of this we have already seen in the previous videos. This is just a quick recap. Okay. Now, whenever we talk about the modern design experiences, the first thing which we need to take is the use application / browser activity. Okay, your click activity, your type into activity, get text, set text, none of them would work without this activity which is called use application / browser. Activity is single, works both with the desktop application as well as with the web browser. Okay, and in the video number 3 and video number 4 we have explored this in the details, right? So in case you are not aware of any of these videos, I have put this complete playlist list in the description for your reference. Please do watch this video so that you understand this complete concept in a step-by-step manner. In the last video we have seen something which is called descriptors, right? Now for those of you who are already following, you guys would understand. Whenever I say descriptor, it simply means a collection of the target and the anchor. Okay, so if I am doing some automation and I say indicate on element, the modern design experiences generates a combination of target and anchor, and that combination is called a descriptors. Okay, and whenever we attempt to do something with screen, right, with the UI automation, the modern design experiences give something which is called the selection screen, right? And we have seen that we can do a lot of things in the selection screen. We can select, configure, delete, manage, and this complete selection screen we have seen in a step-by-step manners. And this generates the target and the anchor, and this combination is called the descriptors, right? Today in this video we are going to discuss that once these descriptors are generated, how different is it to work with the modern design experiences, and if I have to do the same in the classic, how much effort I am saving, right? And what are the benefits which I am getting. So what we are going to do is, We are going to create an automation first with the help of classic, and the same automation then we'll do with the help of the modern, and I'll try to make you understand that why we should always prefer using the modern design. And all of this we are going to see with the help of a demo. Okay, so I am back into my UiPath studio, and as you can see I am in the modern design. So but I can always use the classic activities, right? I'll go to the activities, and in this filter button I'll say classic, and now since the project is classic, I still can use the classic activities as well. Okay, so to better differentiate, what I'll do is I'll create a new sequence. Okay, I'll create a new sequence which is called classic. Here we are going to do the classic automation. I'll create a new sequence called modern, and here we are going to do the same automation with the help of modern. Okay, so this is our classic, this is our modern. I'll close the main. Okay, so the first topic which we want to discuss is the convert to dynamic text. So whenever we are working with UiPath and the text is changing frequently, we can utilize something which is called dynamic text. Now what exactly the dynamic text means, right? As you can see on the right hand side, I have a screenshot of an RPA screen, RPA stock market, where whatever the user select from the drop down, the same stocks are listed here. Right now, someday it can be this stock, Exxon UI Pharma, someday it can be a different stock. For different user, the stock would be different, right? And if I have to get this information out of this wizard, which is a dynamic text kind of thing, right, I have to do some manipulation both in the classic as well as in the modern. But the modern gives an option which is called the convert to dynamic text. Okay, let's see that in action. First we'll see it in classic, and then we are going to see it in the modern. Okay, so I am in my browser. I have opened a website which is called rpachallenge.com. You guys can also open the same and practice along with me. Okay, and now rpachallenge.com, I have something which is called RPA stock market, right? So this is the website I was showing on the slide as well. Okay, now if you see here, this name of the stock is coming from whatever we select from this drop down, right? So let's say I am writing an automation where it could be anything, right? It can be this Exxon Corp, it can be this WEX, or it can be the UI Pharma, right? Now if I have to write some automation where I have to read this value, if I do it in classic, right? Let's first try to do it in classic. I'll go back to the UiPath studio, and I am in the classic one, right? I'll go to the activities, and I will try to use something which is called get text. Okay, now here UI automation application get text, this is the advanced one, right? So if I try to use this here, you would notice that it says that this should be inside the use application / browser activity, right? So that is the first difference. So I cannot use any of the modern activities like this, right? But if I go to the activities, scroll down, you have classic get text. I can use the classic get text here. Okay, now when the classic one is using the get text, the first thing is I no need to necessarily use the use application / browser. In the classic one, I just say indicate on screen, and I point it to this element. Okay, and this completely works on the concept of selectors. Now if I go here and I say edit the selector, you would notice that in the classic one, if the selector has automatically got the AA name, which means that it is always going to select this option, right? If I say validate, you can see it is validating. Highlight, yes, it is correct. But if I go back to the web browser and I select it to WEX Academy, and I say edit the selector now, and I say highlight, as you can see it's not able to highlight, right? Because the AA name is available here. Now what do you do in the classic experience? We actually go and we omit this AA name. We make this selector dynamic by putting a star here, right? Or you can simply put this WX Academy as a variable here, and that should start working, right? So if I simply remove this A name and I put a star here, it start working. So this was the kind of manipulation I have to do in the classic design. But as a developer, I need to do some additional steps to make this thing working, right? Let's see the same thing in the modern. Okay, so now I'm in the modern design experiences. Get text, I use the modern get text. First thing first, I'm not able to use the modern get text directly like this. It says that Mukesh, you cannot use the modern get text. You need to first use the use application / browser, right? First difference, guys. So I'll remove this. I'll use something which is called use application / browser here. Then I say indicate application to automate, and I point it to the browser like this. Okay, now this is the container which is called use application / browser, and all of these properties we have already defined in the first or the second video, along with this, all of this, right? So please do watch the previous videos to get more insights here. Okay, now the same thing let's try to do here. I can use the get text. This is in the modern experiences. Okay, now it says that indicate the element on the edge. Now if I go here and I point it to this guy like this, you would notice that UiPath Studio had generated the selector, the fuzzy selector, the image, and it has done a lot of things for us, right? Not only this, I have many things which are available here, right? But we wanted to focus mostly on the dynamic text, right? If you see here the selector, it's almost the same which we have got here. But now I, as a developer, I know that this is going to be dynamic. So what I can do is, in the target, you have this option which is called convert to the dynamic text target. Any target whichever you feel is dynamic, convert to dynamic text target. Just select this option from the selection window here like this. Convert to the dynamic text target. We have anchors and everything, but the second one, as soon as I click on this second one, which is this star kind of something, you would see a message popping up somewhere in the bottom of the screen, right? So I'll just go here, and also please keep an eye on the selectors. I'll go here and I say convert to dynamic text. Conversion to dynamic text was successful, and it has automatically disabled the strict selector. It understands that the strict selector is not a correct method, so it automatically switched to the fuzzy selector now, and I just have to click on confirm. That's it, right? Let's validate. I'll change this to Axon RPA cop. Okay, go back to that activity, edit the target. Okay, and as you can see that it is able to identify the Axon RPA corp as well, right? You see the small concentric circles too here. It simply means that this is the one which was able to identify this element correctly. Okay, so this means that this selection was confirmed by using the fuzzy selector options, right? So that was the one which is called the convert to dynamic text. I'll click cancel, and let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so that was the option of convert to dynamic text which is available in the second menu, right? So I hope you were able to make a difference that how just by clicking on a simple thing you can actually convert the selectors to work with the dynamic text, right? I personally like this feature. If that is the same with you, just comment dynamic text and I would understand that yes, you guys also like it. Okay, moving forward. How does the modern activity actually work? Whenever I say indicate on the screen, you might have seen that there are a lot of things which are automatically generated after I click on some elements, which means that the modern activities automatically generate the selector, the fuzzy selector, and the image, and all of them work concurrently at a time, which means that all of them are working simultaneously. and whichever method is able to get the element first is written. All three methods are available both for anchors and the target. In case we want to modify, we can change as well, right? To better understand this working and what are the benefits I get, let's try to do a small one more automation. Do it first with the classic and then we see with the modern that how much different it is in the experiences and what are the benefits. Okay, going back to my UiPath Studio now. Okay, so I am back into my UiPath Studio. Okay, now let's say this is the same website we have been working on, right? So I'll click on home and this is what, right? Now let's say I have to write an automation where I have to click on this button, which is the buy. Okay, I have a simple automation where I have to do simply click on this button, which is the buy button. If I have to do it in the classic design experiences, right, what I actually do, I go here and I first take an activity which is called open browser or maybe attach browser, right? So I'll prefer using attach browser since it is already open, right? So this is the classic ones, right? See, classic UI automation attach browser. Now I indicate it on the page like this, and then I have to click on that button, so I use a click activity. All of this is in the classic one only, right? So I go here classic and I take a classic mouse click, and then as a developer I usually point it to the button like this. Okay, now what happens? UiPath automatically generates the selector for me with a control name, AA name and everything, whatever we do, right? Now as a developer I have an option to change the settings. I can open in UI Explorer and all of that is still applicable to the classic as well. Okay, now let's say sometime what happens, this buy button is not available on the screen and sometime it get into some exceptions. Now at the same time what you have to do is you have to handle that exception and you want to make sure that your automation should not break, right? So what do we do as a developer? If this click activity fails, I encapsulate this with the help of try catch, something like this, right? Where I say that in case this activity fails, I say any exception which comes into this click activity, I have to write automation to now click with the help of maybe the image, or I want to make it with the help of fuzzy, right? So in the exception I'll use something which is called click image. Again in the classic one I use an activity which is called click image, and then I usually take the image like this, right? So I draw an image properly here, something like this, right? And then I ask the automation to click on this button with the help of image automation in case your selector fails, right? So this can be any remote application, this can be any desktop application, web, anywhere, right? So in the classic activity we have to all these setups in case I want to make sure that my automation does not break, right? Also some developers also use the fuzzy selector where they introduce some fuzzy characters in the selectors here, right, by introducing some tag which is called fuzzy, right? We have seen that in the first video, that how do you add fuzziness to the selectors, right? So in the classic design we do all of these things to make sure that my automation does not break, and it works perfectly in case of exceptions also. But if you see here, I have to write a lot of logic, I have to do a lot of changes, run implementations, testing, I would say. That was the classic. If I have to do the same thing in the modern, right, I'll just delete everything. Now the same automation if I have to do in the modern, the first thing first, I use an activity which is called use application / browser. I say indicate application to automate. I'll again point it to this one, same like the browser, but here you have got a lot of options. You can open a new instance, you have this one which is object repository, you can open a new browser sessions directly from here, right? And a lot of things which you can do with only this one, which was not available in the attached browser or the open browser for you, right? In here if you see, I can always open a new instance. I simply click on this one and you can see that it's already open, it says that focus the current instance, open the new instance. So let's say I want to test it in duplicate windows. So I say open in new instance, and you would notice that this instance is doubled, right? This was not available for you in the classic design. Also, in the previous videos we have also seen that this has got a lot of properties in terms of the unified target, input, output elements. You have the resize options available, input mode also is available, right? So it has got a lot of options. But if I talk particularly about clicking on the element, right, let's take a click activity now. So now I am in the modern one, so I can use the modern click activity. Mouse click, I have taken it recently, so I drag and drop it here, right? The second difference, here the click activity can work outside also. Here if you simply drag and drop it here, it won't give you any error, right? But in the modern it should be inside the scope. Now I say indicate in the edge, and I point it to the buy button, the same automation. Now as soon as I click on this buy button, in the classic I was only getting the selectors, but in the modern one I am getting the selectors, fuzzy selector, computer vision, image, and the anchor also is automatically generated for some of the cases where it fails at a single time. Now if you see on the right hand side, you have this window which is called target. As of now it says that, hey Mukesh, whatever you are building, UiPath thinks that the fuzzy selector is the correct way of building it, and we are not using the selectors, right? If you want to use selectors, you can just click on this one and it automatically generated the selector for you, which is the same thing which we have seen in the classic as well. So if you notice here, it automatically generated the selector, the fuzzy selector, the computer vision, and the image for you. And now when this automation is running, selector, fuzzy selector, computer vision, image, all of them would work together to find this element. Whichever is able to find this element, that will just go and click. So I don't have to do the exception handling in terms of if the element is not available, switch to the image. If the element is not available, use anchors and all, right? So as you can see that I have not used any of those here. As a developer, I have to write very less code, and I can simply click on this button which says confirm. That's it, right? Now if I go to the properties here, you will notice that the selector in the target, right, the selector, image, fuzzy selector, everything is done by this single activity. Okay, let me show you one more interesting thing, right, which comes in the difference only. Okay, taking the same example here, let's say I want to do some UI automation and I want to use the anchors, right? Let's say this element was not able to generate the selectors precisely, right? Or maybe I can use this one which is called the input forms, right? This you see whenever I click on the submit button, it changes the layout, right? So now let's say I want to type something in the first name here, so this becomes my anchor. In the classic design, if I have to do that, I use an activity which is called anchor base. Classic automation, I use something which is called anchor base. Then I use an anchor, and then I use the activity, right? So what is my anchor? So I say something called find element. Anchor also we have explained in the classic design experiences as well in detail, right? So please watch those videos if you don't understand all of this, right? So I'll put all of this in the description, right? So in the classic design, if I want to use anchor, first I need to tell UiPath that go and find the element which is first name, okay, and then you type here. Then I use something which is called type into. Okay, sorry, this is the modern, so I use the classic type into, and then I say that you type it on this window. Okay, so this was the effort which I need to do in the classic design. Anchor base activity, find the label, then the type into, right? And then I can type something like Mukesh. Now if I go and if I change this page, I go here and I say edit the selectors, it has only got the selector of this. If I go here and I select this, it's still not able to find the first name label here. So that means I have to do a lot of the changes here, validate, to use a simple thing which is called the anchor base, right? And still I can see that it is not working because I have used the attached browser, so I may need to change it to something else, right? So I'll just go here and I first change it to the screen, right? That's why it was not working. So I changed it this one. Now I say edit the selectors, highlight, see, now it's working. So I click on submit, layout change, highlight, it's working now because the top window was different, and that as a developer we can happen to us also, right? Now let's try to do the same automation in the modern. Okay, I'll delete everything. This is the RPA challenge to use the modern, right? I'll use the use application / browser, indicate to automate, point it to the RPA challenge, and now the same thing, right? I wanted to type something on the screen, so I'll use the type into, and this time I'm going to use the UI automation type into, which is the modern one. Indicate on screen, and let's say I want to type here, right? Now see carefully what happens. UiPath automatically generates the fuzzy selectors for me. It takes this complete class, everything for me, but it has not generated the selectors. If I want to generate the selector, and it also generated the image for me. Okay, if I want to use the selectors, I can use the strict selectors, and it generated that same selector for me. Not only this, if I want to use anchor, I can simply click on this button and it says that this is the anchor. I can click on that and my anchor is also generated at the same time. Modern activities give you option to add more than one anchors as well. Okay, so for this example, let's say I have added an anchor and I say confirm. Okay, now if I just change the layout, go here, edit the target, it says that the strict targeting method points to a different selectors, right? Because that is what I have added. This generate unexpected runtime behavior. Please rectify or disable the target strict selector. The modern one gives you the exact error which you are going to face in the selectors without even running it at the runtime only. So it is guiding me that you disable the target strict selector. I say okay, I remove this, and now if you see, it's pointing to the new element. Okay, I'll just pause this automation for, let's say, 5 seconds, and let me pause this and I'll change the layout, right, like this. Okay, so I paused it so that I could change the layout, and you can see that even if the layout is changed, my UiPath Studio is able to identify the elements even in the new page. Let me pause it again. Layout is changed again, and still you are able to identify the elements, right, without me doing anything. At the bottom, if you notice carefully, anchor is automatically generated by UiPath for me. So this combination is called a descriptor, right? We have the target and we have the anchor. Now if I go to the anchor, you would notice that the anchor also is created with the help of fuzzy selector, and the target is created also with the help of fuzzy selectors. So UiPath automatically generated the target as well as the anchor for me. If you are not happy with the anchor, you can simply click on this anchor and you can point it to something else, right? I can specify the anchor to here. So I click on this target and here you have this button which is add anchor, and then you can add one more anchor, right? You can add one more anchor, maybe the submit button, right? So go here, you can add up to 3 anchors, add anchors, submit button, right? And then I say anchors, no more than 3 anchors are added. You can only add 3 anchors, right? This might not work with this example because this layout keep changing, but to show you that how easy it is to manipulate the target and the anchors in the modern design experiences, right? I'll click on cancel, and that was the difference you get when you use the classic versus the modern in terms of selecting the element, editing it, generating the selectors, generating the image. All of that is automatically done with the help of modern activities. Okay. The last point here which is important is that these 3 methods are available for anchor and the target both. Whenever we talk about descriptors, we say that the descriptor is a combination of anchor plus target, right? So these 3 methods, the selector, fuzzy and the image, are available both for the target as well as for the anchor, and as a developer you can modify it, right? Let me show that also in action, but this time with the help of a notepad. Okay, so I'll escape this and I'll go back to the code. Okay, I'll delete this completely. So in the modern, I have a notepad here, I have this notepad here. Okay, let's go to the classic. If I have to, let's say, type something on the notepad in the classic, I use an activity which is called the classic type into. I say indicate on the screen and I point it to the notepad, right? That's how we work. And now it only and only generate the selectors, right? So this is a plain notepad. It has no anchors, it has got no image, nothing, right? If I have to use an anchor in the classic, I used to have an activity called add anchor, then find image, the add image, then I have to do the CV automation. This was the classic. If I do the same thing in the modern, first thing first, I'll use an activity called use application / browser, indicate application to automate, and I point it to the notepad. Now I want to type something, right? So I'll use an activity called type into, the modern one, and now I say just click here. Now you see strict selector, fuzzy selector, image, all of these things are automatically generated by UiPath for me. UiPath is also telling me, Mukesh, I did not find any anchor. If you do not want to use anchor, that's perfectly fine. Click on confirm. But if you want to use anchor, you can use it, right? So I say that I want to use anchor, so I click on this target, and as soon as I keep my mouse on it, you would see that this anchor sign is popping up, right? So I'll say that I want to use an anchor, that should be this help button, or it can be this file button, right? Format, anything. So I say that for me the anchor would be this view button. As of now, I just say I only have the target, I do not have the anchor. As soon as I click the target, the anchor here, which is this view, and now you would have the target and you have the anchor. The point which I was discussing in the presentation was that both for the target as well as anchor, for the target you have the strict selector, fuzzy selector and the image, right? The same options are available for the anchor as well. Here, see, the anchor are also identified, target and the anchor. The anchor can also have the strict selector, fuzzy selector and all of this. See, UiPath automatically generated the image also for an anchor. UiPath automatically generated the fuzzy selector also for the anchor. It also generated the strict selector. Now as a developer you can change it, right? Let's say I only want to find the anchor with an image. So I'll go to the anchors, I'll uncheck this, I'll uncheck this, and I only have the image automation for the anchor now, and I don't have the strict and the fuzzy. Let's say for the target, I only want to use the fuzzy selector. I uncheck this, I uncheck this, I uncheck the computer vision also. That's how easy, that's how handy this complete thing is, right? And all of this is just a matter of click without writing any automation, everything configurable in this single window, right? So this selection screen is a very powerful feature, guys, which all of us should know. For some of you might have a question that whenever I was using in the classic design, I always has an option to edit the selector, see it in the UI Explorer and all, right? Applicable here as well. In the selector, you see open in UI Explorer, this button, click on that. In case you are not satisfied with the selector which this guy has generated, I open it in the advanced selectors. You can do the modification, add it, remove the attributes, anything you want to do, and just click on save. Comes here and updates the selectors. In this window, you see these concentric circles. Sometime it would be available in the strict, sometime in the fuzzy, right? So it simply means that when I was running this automation, this was the method, selector method, which was able to identify this element correctly in the first attempt, right? All of this work concurrently, which we have seen, right? Image, fuzzy, target, all of them work together. It's kind of a race. And for this use case, or I would say for this selector, strict selector won. So it got this concentric circle, right? So as a developer, you know that I was able to identify the element with the help of strict selectors, right? And all you have to do is just click on this one which says confirm. Not only this, it also generated the computer vision for me. Only one activity here, classic, we have to do a lot of automations, right? So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that is pretty much I wanted to cover in this video. Let's have a quick recap. So today we have seen that whenever we are doing the UI automation, we have the target as well as the anchor, and together they are known as the descriptors. Whenever we are using the modern design experiences, this descriptor is automatically created by UiPath for us. Not only this, it generates the selector, fuzzy selector, image as well as the computer vision for us. Also, we have seen that if our target contain text that changes frequently, we can utilize a feature which is called convert to the dynamic text, and that comes very handy. Today, we have also explored that how different is the experience when it comes to experiencing the classic versus the modern design. And we have seen that how easy it is to work with the modern experience with very less amount of coding, right? The three methods which we talked, selector, fuzzy and image, is applicable both to the target as well as the anchor. I personally like to use the modern experiences and I find a lot of value in it. And I hope by watching this video, you also will like the modern design experiences from today onwards, right? I would wait for your comments. Let me know in the comments how do you feel about the classic versus modern and which one you would prefer for your next automation. With that, I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel and happy automation.